Hello, everybody. This is Bookworm, and as you probably heard in my little shorts, that I'm going to pick up the selection at another time. But now I am getting ready to read the Deep Blues. It's the first book in the Waterfire saga, and this is what the cover looks like. And it says, "Rich with magic and mythology, adventure and danger, romance, friendship, and themes, both classic and contemporary. Deep Blue Book 1 of the Waterfire saga is an epic tale as expansive, mysterious, and beguiling as the sea itself. Daughter of Marrow, find the five, brave enough to keep alive, one whose heart will hold the light, one possessed of a prophet's sight, one who does not yet believe, thus has no choice but to deceive, sorry. One with spirit sure and strong, one who sings all creatures' songs. Together find the talismans belonging to the six who ruled, hidden under treacherous waters where light after light and darkness ruled." And this is the map of the Mer realms. And as I said in the heading, more than once, dimly down to the beach, gliding silent, avoiding the moonbeams, blending myself with the shadows, recalling now the obscure shapes, the echoes, the sounds, and sights after their sorts. The white arms out in the breakers, tirelessly tossing, I with bare feet, a child, the wind wafting my hair, listened long and long. From Out of the Cradle, Endlessly Rocking by Walt Whitman. And this is the prologue. I like the fact that they put the page numbers on the sides. And here it goes. Deep in the Black Mountains, deep in the Romanian night, beneath the cold dark waters of the ancient Olt, the river witches sang, "Daughter of Marrow, leave you sleep, the ways of childhood no more to keep. The dream will die and nightmare rise. Sleep no more, child, open your eyes." From her place in the shadows, the elder Baba Vraja watched the blue water fire, her bright eyes restive and alert. "Vino un ru aratite," she muttered in her age-old tongue. "Come, evil one, show yourself." Around the water fire, 8 river witches continued their song. Hands clasped, they swam counterclockwise in a circle, their powerful tails pushing them through the water. "Daughter of Marrow, chosen one, the end begins. Your time has come. The sands run out, our spell unwinds, inch by inch our chant unbinds." "Vinu Devorlevin," Raja growled, drawing closer to the circle. "To Istri Langa, to Simit. Come, devil, come. You're near. I feel you." Without warning, the water fire rose, its flames looking out like serpents' tongues. The witches bowed their heads and tightened their grip on one another's hands. Suddenly, one of them, the youngest, cried out. She doubled over as if in great pain. Raja knew that pain. It tore inside like a sharp silver hook. She swam to the young witch. "Fight it, Draga," she told her. "Be strong." I I can't. It's too much. Gods help me," the witch cried. Her skin, the mottled gray of river stones, paled. Her tail thrashed wildly. "Fight it! The circle must not break. The Ele must not falter," Vrasha shouted. With a wrenching cry, the young witch raised her head and wove her voice once more into the chant. As she did, colors appeared inside the water fire. They swirled together, coalescing into an image. A bronze gate, sunk deep underwater, and encrusted with ice. A sound was heard, the sound of 1,000 voices all whispering. Shokurith, Emitor, Apetiun. Behind the gate something stirred as if waking from a long sleep. It turned its eyeless face to the north and laughed. Secorith, Amenticor, Apetiun. Raja swam close to the waterfire. She shut her eyes against the image, against the evil and the fear, against the coming blood-red tide. She dug deep inside herself and gave all she had and all she was to the magic. Her voice strengthened and rose above the others, drowning out the whispering, the cracking of the ice, the low, gurgling laughter. Daughter of Meryl, find the five, brave enough to keep hope alive, one whose heart will hold the light, one possessed of prophet's sight, one who does not yet believe, thus has no choice but to deceive, one with spirit sure and strong, one who sings all creatures' songs. Together find the talismans belonging to the six who ruled, hidden under treacherous waters after light and darkness dueled. These pieces must not be united, not in anger, greed, or rage. They were scattered by brave Mero, lest they unlock destruction's cage. Come to us from seas and rivers, become one mind, one heart, one bond, before the waters and all creatures in them are laid to waste by Abaddon. The thing behind the bar screamed with rage. It hurled itself against the gate. The impact sent shockwaves through the water fire into the witches. The first tore at them viciously, threatening to break their circle, but they held fast. The thing thrust a hand through the bars as if it wanted to reach inside Vraja and tear out her heart. The water fire blazed higher, and then, all at once, it went out. The thing was gone, the river was silent. One by one the witches sank to the river bed. They lay on the soft mud, gasping, eyes closed, fins crumpled beneath them. Only Vraja remained, floating where the circle had been. Her wrinkled face was weary, her old body bent. Strands of gray hair loosed from a long braid twined like eagles around her head. She continued to chant alone, her voice rising through the dark water, ragged but defiant. Daughter of Mero, leave your sleep, the ways of childhood no more to keep. Wake now, child, find the five, while there's time, keep hope alive. Wake now, child, find the five, while there's time, keep hope alive. Wake now, child. And that ends the prologue. Now we're into chapter 1. Wake up, child, suffering Circe. I've called you 5 times. Have you sand in your ears this morning? Seraphina woke with a gasp. Her long copper brown hair floated wildly around her face. Her eyes, darkly green, were fearful. That thing in the cage, she could hear its gurgling laughter, its horrible screams. She could feel its cunning and its rage. She looked around her, heart pounding, certain it was here with her. But she soon saw that there was no monster in her room, only her mother, who was every bit as terrifying. Falling in bed today of all days, the Dukimi is tonight, and you have so much to do. La Serenissima, Regina Isabella, ruler of Miramara, was swimming from window to window, throwing open the draperies. Sunlight filtered through the glass panes from the waters above, waking the feathery tube worms clustered around the room. They burst into bloom, daubing the walls yellow, cobalt blue, and magenta. Their golden rays warmed fronds of seaweed anchored to the floor. They shimmered in the glass of a tall gilt mirror and glinted off the polished coral walls. A small green octopus that had been curled up at the foot of the bed, so Seraphina's pet Sylvester, darted away, disturbed by the light. Can't you cast a song spell for that, Mom? Seraphina asked, her voice raspy with sleep. You asked Tavia to do it. I sent Tavia to fetch your breakfast, Isabella said. And no, I can't cast a song spell to open draperies. As I've told you 1,000,000 times, never waste magic on the mundane, Seraphina said. Exactly. Do get up, Seraphina. The Emperor and Empress have arrived. Your ladies are waiting for you in your antechamber. The Canto Magus is coming to rehearse your song spell, and here you lie as idle as a sponge, Isabella said. She batted a school of purple grasses away from a window and looked out of it. The sea is so calm today. I can see the sky. Let's hope no storm blows to turn up the waters. Mom, what are you doing here? Don't you have a realm to rule? Seraphina asked, certain her mother had not come to comment on the weather. Yes, I do, thank you, Isabel said tartly. But I've left Miramar in your Uncle Valerio's capable hands for an hour. She crossed the room to Seraphina's bedside, her gray sea silk gown swirling behind her, her silver scales gleaming, her thick black hair piled high on her head. Just look at all these conches, she exclaimed, frowning at the pile of white shells on the floor by Seraphina's bed. You stayed up late last night listening, didn't you? I had to, Seraphina said defensively. My turn college on Mara's progress is due next week. No wonder I can't get you out of bed, Isabella said. She picked up one of the shells and held it to her ear. The Merovingian Conquest of the Barons of Thria by Professor Bola, she said and tossed it aside. I hope you didn't waste too much time on that one. Bola's a fool. An armchair commander, he claims the Alpathega were contained by the threat of sanctions. Total bilge. The Alpathega were cannibals. And cannibals care nothing for decrees. Mara once sent a messenger to tell them that they were being sanctioned, and they ate him. Seraphina groaned. Is that why you're here? It, it's a little early in the day for a lecture on politics. It's never too early for politics, Isabella said. It was encirclement by Marin soldiers, the Aqua Guerrieri, that bested the Alpafago. Force, not diplomacy. Remember that, Sarah. Never sit down at the negotiating table with cannibals, lest you find yourself on the menu. I'll keep that in mind, Mom, Sarah said, rolling her eyes. She sat up in her bed, an enormous ivory scallop shell, and stretched. One half of the shell, thickly lined with plump pink anemones, was where she slept. The other half, a canopy, was suspended on the points of four tortilla shells. The canopy's edges were intricately curved and inlaid with sea glass and amber. Lush curtains of chopweed hung down from it. Tiny orange gobies and blue striped dragonets darted in and out of them. The anemone's fleshy fingers clutched at Seraphina as she rose. She pulled on a white sea silk robe embroidered with gold thread, capish shells, and seed pearls. Her scales, which were the bright, winking color of new copper, gleamed in the underwater light. They covered her tail and her torso and complemented the darker copper shade of her hair. Her coloring was from her father, Principe Consorte Bastion, a son of the noble house of Kedin in the Sea of Marmara. Her fins, a soft coral pink with green glints, were supple and strong. She had the lithe body and graceful movements of a fast, deep-sea swimmer. Her complexion was olive-hued and usually flawless, but this morning, "What's the matter?" Isabella asked, noticing her pallor. "You're as white as a shark's belly. Are you ill?" "I didn't sleep well. I had a bad dream," Seraphina said as she belted her robe. "There was something horrible in a cage. A monster wanted to get out, and I had to stop it. But I didn't know how." The image just came back to her as she spoke, vivid and frightening. "Night terrors, that's all. Bad dreams come from bad nerves," Isabel said dismissively. The Ailey were in it. The river witches. They wanted me to come to them, Seraphina said. You used to tell me stories about the Ailey." You said they were the most powerful of our kind, and if they ever summon us, we have to go. Do you remember? Isabella smiled, a rare occurrence. Yes, but I can't believe you do, she said. I told you those stories when you were tiny, Merle, to make you behave. I said the ELA would call you to them and box your ears if you didn't sit still as a well-mannered principessa of the House of Merle should. It was all froth and sea foam. Seraphina knew the river witches were only make-believe, yet they seemed so real in her dream. They were right there, right in front of me, so close I could have reached out and touched them, she said. Then she shook her head, as at her foolishness. But they weren't there, of course, and I have more important things to think about today. Indeed you do. Is your song spell ready? Isabella asked. So that's why you're here, Seraphina said archly. Not to wish me well, or to talk about hairstyles, or the crown prince, or anything normal mothers would talk about with their daughters. You came to make sure I don't mess up my song spell. Isabel fixed Seraphina with her fierce blue eyes. Good wishes are irrelevant, so are hairstyles. What is relevant is your song spell. It has to be perfect, Sarah. It has to be perfect. Sarah worked so hard at everything. She did. Her studies, her song casting, her equestrian competitions. But no matter how high she aimed, her mother's expectations were always higher. I didn't need to tell you that the course of both Miramara and Metalia will be watching, Isabella said. You can't afford to put a finger on. And you won't, so as long as you don't give in to your nerves. Nerves are the foe. Conquer them or they'll conquer you. Remember, it's not a battle or a deadlock in Parliament. It's only a Duchini. Right, Mom, only a Duchini, said Seraphina, her face flaring. Only the ceremony in which Alethea declares me of the blood or kills me. Only the one where I have to song cast as well as the Count Magus does. Only the one where I take my betrothal vows and swear to give the realm a daughter some day. It's nothing to get worked up about. Nothing at all. An uncomfortable silence descended. Isabella was the first one to break it. One time, she said, I had a terrible case of nerves myself. It was when my senior ministers were aligned against me on an important trade initiative, and Seraphina cut her off angrily. Mom, can you just be a mom for once and forget either Regina? She asked. Isabella smiled sadly. No, Sarah, she said. I can't. Her voice, usually brisk, had taken on a sorrowful note. Is something wrong? Seraphina asked, suddenly worried. What is it? Did the Matalis arrive safely? She knew the outlaw bands often preyed upon travelers in lonely stretches of water. The worst of them, the predatory, was known to steal everything of value: currency, jewelry, weapons, even the hippocamps the travelers rode. The Matalis are perfectly fine, Isabella said. They arrived Flavia saw them. She says they're well but weary. Who wouldn't be? It's a long trip from the Indian Ocean to the Adriatic Sea. Seraphina was relieved. It wasn't only the crown prince and his parents, the emperor and empress, who were in the Matalan traveling party, but also Neela, the crown prince's cousin. Neela was Seraphina's very best friend, and she was longing to see her. Sarah spent her day surrounded by people, yet she was always lonely. She could never let her guard down around around her court or her servants. Neela was the only one with whom she could really be herself. Did Desideria ride out to welcome them? She asked. Isabel hesitated. Actually, your father went to meet them, she finally said. Why? I thought Des was supposed to go, said Seraphina, confused. She knew her brother had been looking forward to greeting the Matalis. He and Maudie, the crown prince, were old friends. Maudie has been deployed to the western border with regiments of the Aqua Guerrieri, Isabel said bluntly. Seraphina was stunned and frightened for her brother. What? She said. When? Late last night, at your uncle's command. Valerio, Isabella's brother, was Miramara's high commander. His authority was second only to her own. Why? Sarah asked, alarmed. A regiment contained 3,000 guerrieri. The threat at the western border must be serious, for our uncle for her uncle to have sent so many soldiers. We received word of another raid on Aquabella, a village off the coast of Sardinia, Isabella said. How many were taken? Seraphina asked, afraid of the answer. More than 2,000. Isabella turned away, but not before Seraphina saw the unshed tears shimmering in her eyes. The raids have started a year ago. 6 Myanmaran villages have been hit so far. No one knew why the villages were being taken or who was behind the raids. It was as if they'd simply vanished. Were there any witnesses this time? Seraphina asked. Do you know who did it? Isabella, composed, now turned back to her. We don't. I wish to the gods we did. Your brother thinks the Terragogs. The humans? It can't be. We have protective song spells against them. We've had them since the Mer were created. 4,000 years ago. They can't touch us. They've never been able to touch us, Seraphina said. She shuddered to think of the consequences if humans ever learned how to break song spells. The Mer would be hauled out of the oceans by thousands in brutal nets. They'd be bought and sold, confined in small tanks for the gods' amusement. Then their numbers will be decimated like the tunas and the cods. No creature from land or sea was greedier than the treacherous Terragogs. Even the vicious Opporfago only took what they could eat. The Gogs took everything. I don't think it's the humans, Isabella said. I told your brother so, but a large trawler was spotted in the waters close to Aquabella, and he's convinced it's involved. Your uncle believes Ondalina is behind the raids, and they're planning to attack Cerealia as well. So I sent the regiments as a show of strength on our western border. This was sobering news. Ondalina, the realm of the Arctic Mer, was an old enemy. It had waged war against Miramar and lost a century ago, and had simmered under the terms of the peace ever since. As you know, the Ondalinians broke the Permutati 3 months ago, Isabella said. Your uncle thinks Admiral Colfin did it because he wished to derail your betrothal to the Matalan crown prince and offer his daughter, Astrid, to the Matalis instead. An alliance with Matali is every bit as valuable to them as it is to us. Seraphina was worried to hear of Ondalina's scheming, and she was surprised and flattered that her mother was discussing it with her. Maybe we should postpone the Dokimi, she said. You could call a council of 6 waters instead. To caution Ondalina, Emperor Bilal is already here. We'd only have to summon the president of Atlantica, the elder of Chen, and the queen of the fresh waters. Isabella's troubled expression changed to one of impatience, and Seraphina knew she'd said the wrong thing. The Dokimi can't be postponed. The stability of our realm depends on it. The moon is full and the tides are high. All preparations have been made. A delay could play right into Colfin's hands, Isabella said. Seraphina, desperate to see approval in her mother's eyes, tried again. What if we sent another regiment to the western border? She asked. I listened to this conch last night. She quickly sorted through the shelves on her floor. Here it is, this course is on defense. It says that a show of force alone can be enough to deter an enemy, and that Isabel cut her off. You can't learn to rule a realm by listening to conches. But, Mom, a show of force worked with Fago and the Barons. You said so yourself 5 minutes ago. Yes, it did, and that was an entirely different situation. So really, it was not under the threat of raids then, so Miro could afford to move her guerrieri out of the city to the Barrens. As I hope you know by now, Sarah, 6 regiments are currently garrisoned here in the capital. We've already sent 4 to the western border with Desiderio. If we send another, we leave ourselves with only 1. Yes, but what if raiders who've been attacking our village attack Cerulia instead, and we only have 1 regiment of guerrieri left to defend ourselves and the Matalis? But we have your personal guard too, the Janitshari, Seraphina said, her voice, like her hopes of impressing her mother, growing fainter. Isabel flapped a hand at her. Another 1,000 soldiers at most. not enough to mount an effective defense. Think, Seraphina, think. Ruling is like playing chess. Danger comes from many directions, from a pawn as well as a queen. You must play the board, not the piece. You're only hours from being declared heiress to the Miramoran throne. You must learn to think. I am thinking. Gods, Mom, why are you always so hard on me? Seraphina shouted. Because your enemies will be 1,000 times harder, Isabella shouted back. Another painful silence fell between mother and daughter. It was broken by a frantic pounding. Enter! Isabella barked. The doors to Seraphina's room swung open. A page, one of Valerio's, swam in. He bowed to both mermaids, then addressed Isabella. My lord Valerio sent me to fetch you to your staterooms, your grace. Why? There are reports of another raid. Isabella's hands clenched into fists. Tell your lord I'll be there momentarily. The page bowed and left the room. Seraphina started toward her mother. I'll go with you, she said. Isabella shook her head. Ready yourself for tonight, she said tersely. It must go well. We desperately need this alliance with Natali, now more than ever. Mom, please. But it was too late. Isabella had already swum out of Sarah's bedchamber. She was gone. And ladies and gentlemen, that ends the prologue and the first chapter of Deep Blue. Sorry for the change in setting. I thank you all for listening. And please leave your comments and let me know what you think. And let me know if you want to continue. Thank you for listening and have a good night, my fellow bookworms.